So of course, Sloterdijk is said that Lee Kuan Yew, the founder of Singapore, is the top candidate, according to him, to have a statue made to them in 100 years. Let's look at what um, the current um, Prime Minister of Singapore is saying, Lawrence Wong, and the project he's trying to sell. So this is somewhat speculative because I'm not totally um, sure if I understand the forces at play perfectly. Um, what he seems to say is he's trying to set up a shop, and so he believes, or he proposes himself as one believing in the new so-called multipolarity. But at the same time, we should say when he's asked whether Trump was justified in his tariffs, he makes a very diplomatic answer and says, yes, there could have been some free riders or something, whatever. So the whole speech he's making in his interview, I'm going on an interview he did with FT. Yeah, we have to take it as a man making a very public statement, and in a way as the the front man for the country, but also for the sort of global concern of Singapore. The leading executive officer. So if a market is small and it only involves the insiders, then the amount of rules you need is lower. The larger it gets and the more the trust is, Trump attempts to operate on trust often when he just goes with the personalities. The more the trust issue goes away, the more the epitatus comes into force, that which even the Stoics had to fight with, the thing that sets off the bull in the man who sees red. The epitatus. The more this challenges the market, then yeah, you could say low trust situations like that where you think we're dealing with in a way, we're dealing with those that can't be trusted. They can't even trust themselves. Then you need a lot of rules, formal rules, preferably right-line rules. But Singapore seems to me to be proposing to sell to the world, saying, look, the Americans can't do their job as the securer of debt, or which is the same as the securer of the value of your stores, all your stores of value of your property. They're no longer really good at that. That's why I'm saying, that's why Lawrence Wong is saying we're already on this sort of multipolar situation in a way, because the faith in the American debtor banks to secure our wealth globally is waning. And so then what he's advertising for is saying, look, we have this so-called Asian values, ASEAN group values, which are all about super strong rules, extremely strong rules, meaning you can have really, when you have extremely strong rules, you don't have to trust the people you're contracting with, who you have exchanges with, you've entered into promissory agreements with. because you have Singapore as the clearinghouse where super strict rules apply, super authoritarian rules apply to the market, to market transactions, to property. So this was what it seems to me that Singapore is selling. And then I think it's interesting to observe that this is one sense. So for instance, George Samueli on the gaggle is never tires of berating the theory of the proponents of the exponents of multipolarity, including Dugin, with the reproach that it's just talk. It doesn't have anything behind it. But I think this is one of the points where, besides from ideological change, which can matter in the sense that it's supposed that it only takes 3.5%, supposed by some who've studied and made small empirical present collections of evidence to supposedly, if not prove, make plausible the theory that only 3.5% of the population must change their viewpoint radically enough for there to be some kind of revolution in a country. In that sense, there's also another sense to Dugin's saying of the radical timeline change. We do see, there's sort of plausible gates to it, right? Because there's the meme magic type of philosophizing, which has never been done before. And then, but two, I think it's interesting to, like I said, to stack it with this Singapore deal, which is sort of, in a way, it also makes one think of the schemes of Hayek, who wanted the bank currency to control the banks to make the raw materials markets be the source of the stability of, to issue their own currency and be the source of the ultimate question whether there's inflation or not based on raw materials markets as this rock bottom. But in this sense, what they're doing is making the banks that decide what the value of property is by how much they're willing to lend against it, therefore create the value of the currency in a certain sense. Or at least play one factor which may be the decisive factor in deciding the relative value of currency. These are in play right now. That's where the multipolarity would come from.